The Tennessee Firearms Association event this past Saturday went very well. General Flynn gave a rousing speech encouraging people to get into the fight and stressed the importance of state and local government and that Trump cannot fix the country all by himself. He's right about that. The MC was Monty Fritz, who just announced this past Friday that he was going to put in and he was applying for the position of governor with the people of Tennessee. We did a special on that you need to see if you haven't already. He reiterated that fact, and he was very well received by most people at the event. Gubernatorial candidate John Rose was also there and spoke about the Second Amendment. However, Princess Marsha, the entitled one, was nowhere to be found. Apparently, she thought it was more important to go to the UT game than speak to members of an organization dedicated to supporting the Second Amendment / Section 26 of the Tennessee Constitution, an issue she claims to support. You would think if she was sincere about the issue, she would have been there and could have attended another UT game later in the season. Here she is with Randy Boyd, also known as La Raza Randy from the 2018 governor's race. During that race, he was exposed as being very pro-illegal alien, and he's also the chancellor of the UT. Now, you got to wonder, is Boyd maybe not responsible for some of the woke garbage still coming out of the University of Tennessee? Speaking of Marsha, let's not forget that she pushed the changes to the RNC platform that weakened the stances on life to merely opposing late-term abortion while promoting access to birth control and IVF treatments, which that's not the government's responsibility. That's not a Republican position to provide those things. This platform also failed to defend marriage as being between one man and one woman. The people that opposed these changes, that wanted a stronger platform, they were steamrolled by the RNC to make it harder to stand for life and conservative values. And they just really did not want to hear from the conservatives, from everything I can tell. And this is all these watered down provisions ended up in the RNC's 2024 platform. The Tennessee GOP wasn't happy with the watered down version and created their own version for the state. And they're known as the TNGOP Guiding Principles for the Tennessee Republican Party. So if Marsha becomes governor, which version of principles will she follow? The ones she dutifully passed at Trump's request, or the ones the state GOP passed that are more in line with most truly conservative Republicans in Tennessee? TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. I've talked about this before, but I think it's worth hitting again. Virtually all on the left have TDS, and they hate anything and everything Trump does and says just because it's Trump. Unfortunately, there are many on the right that believe any and everything Trump does is fine since it's coming from Trump. That's a dangerous mindset. Our standard should be the Constitution and the understanding of presidential powers that were created at the time of ratification. Now, newsflash, those powers were considerably less than we've experienced in most presidents, really since Lincoln, which was the true beginning of an exalted executive power that is clearly counter to the plain language of the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, which explained how the Constitution was supposed to work, and the ratifying debates of the states. While we didn't get here overnight and will not be able to address the question overnight, we have to remember that not only is Trump not perfect, and nobody is, but whatever he is allowed to do without clear constitutional authority will be done by the next president and likely added to. While most of the judicial action taken against him has been obvious lawfare by the left and very unlikely and unconstitutional, in fact, even a broken clock is right twice a day. We should be careful not to let our support of Trump and legitimate disgust with the left and judiciary in particular lead us to supporting him when his actions are clearly unconstitutional. The issue of tariffs comes to mind, and the fact that the power to set tariffs is clearly with Congress. we have to keep in mind that the standard has to be the Constitution, not just if we like the result. Do not confuse constitutional, which is any garbage opinion a court comes up with. If you've listened, you have heard me say that there's times when he needs to ignore the court, when they are obviously abusing their power. Remember, the president's main role is to enforce the laws of the land. Who makes the laws? That's Congress, not the court. Who is required to force any action from the court? The executive branch, if that action is constitutional. Nobody would say, or nobody should say, that the president is required to enforce an unconstitutional law. Any action a court takes has to be within power given to them by the Congress through the various judiciary acts. They have no power to enforce any opinion unless that power has been granted by Congress, other than hearing cases and giving opinions. All those opinions are intended to be binding in accordance with the Constitution. Now, that leads to the next story of the day. Who can fix and control our courts? Congress has the power under Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution to limit the appellate jurisdiction of all courts, including the Supreme Court. They can make regulations to the court. So if you want to end lawfare against Trump, then ask your rep and senator when they are going to pass legislation reigning in the courts. The anticipation of lower than expected job numbers, President Trump said, recently said that the real numbers would be in about a year from now, after the completion of several unnamed but very large projects. In fairness to Trump, it's going to take some time to rebuild the economy and the opportunity for job creation, so hopefully his prediction will come true. And Donald Trump said this ahead of a recent jobs report. Real numbers will come in a year from now. And that wraps up this installment of the Informer Report. If you have a news story that you want to alert us to, be sure to send us an email at tninformer.tv@gmail.com.